Greetings viewers and welcome to an all-new edition of the OERLive Leaders Speak. Today we are in conversation with Mr. CP Gurnani, the CEO of Tech Mahindra, and Mr. Ramachandran, the Senior Vice President and Head of the Middle East and African region for Tech Mahindra. Let's jump into the interview. Mr. CP Gurnani, you're here in Oman with some very good news. Can you give us an overview on what to expect?
I think in a lot of ways, it's a very significant day for us. We are here in Oman to launch formally the Omanization or Omanization of Tech Mahindra. We're launching our own software development center and office in Muscat. And why I consider this as a very significant step is I do believe that the history of India and Oman goes back so many years, and it was just natural that as Oman steps into their mission to transform various sectors, that Tech Mahindra plays a dominant role or a prominent role. Why I am using both the words in the same breath is because my belief is that Tech Mahindra has a lot more to offer, and Oman clearly with its vision to become almost a powerhouse in various sectors, I think it is time for us to take the blessings of the Sultan and get the Oman become a significant force on its own.
Absolutely. Now, sir, with your permission, I'm going to ask the next question to Mr. Ram here. Technology does form the backbone of your company, but human resources is also an aspect you invest very heavily on. Can you tell us and walk us through your strategy here in Oman?
Right. So first and foremost, as CP did mention, we have been here for a couple of years. And what caught our attention all through was the immense talent that was available in the country and the youngsters who were willing to learn. And as we have embarked on the journey of digitalisation, not just in Oman but throughout the world, who better than the youngsters of today? So a key initiative as part of the launch of the center for us is going to be inculcating local talent, training them on the latest technologies, and getting them become a bigger force in the years to come in the country. As part of this launch, we are also going to be establishing a training academy where the idea is that we train the youngsters and then put them with hands-on experiences through our projects and programs, and in the end they become a major asset for the country.
Absolutely. Now, Tech Mahindra has also been on the forefront of implementing new technologies. Sir, can you actually walk us through some of the new innovations and technologies that you're banking on to take the country forward in the coming decade?
So I think most of us have to first take a step back and say, what is the aim of the technology? Are we looking at technology transformation, or are we looking at digital transformation, or are we focusing on the outcome or the business transformation? In my opinion, the biggest change that has happened over the past few years is that people have decided that they like the content, like in your sector, media sector, but the delivery of content, how the content is consumed, and what is the method in which you can improve the engagement is become equally important. That means continuous feedback and a continuous improvement. Similarly, the second part which has become very evident is the creative side. I mean, it is no longer about having a layout and saying this will be the page on where I will position a cartoon. I mean, ultimately creativity, whether it was thanks to Steve Jobs, technology is good, but an iPad or an iPhone was also a work of a creative genius. So my personal belief is that where Tech Mahindra adds value today is not only in IT but in design engineering, in product engineering, in cyber security, in being able to elevate the brand, because we have our own design studios now in London and New York. So I think we provide a lot more than just technology, but I am very clear that yes, technology is the glue. For example, we invested in blockchain 4 years ago. I know that today it is reborn blockchain is crypto exchanges, reborn blockchain is the NFT exchanges, reborn blockchain is Web 3.0. But to me, the business result is more about traceability and trust of blockchain. Similarly, when you look at the trends in the industry, it is all about data. One electric vehicle can produce more than what a data center can produce in terms of data. Your iPhone, you don't realize it, or a smartphone, whatever phone you use, you don't realize it, but you are producing more than a 1 GB of data every day. Question is, how do you manage that data? How do you take the best part of that data, structured, and be able to take decisions around it? Now, whether you will use AI tools to make it happen, now, or whether you will use a computer to process that data, or will you go to the cloud? And if you have this much of data, then you need to make sure that you are also securing it. So it's a food chain of data. And again, if you realize that my answer up till now has been how to use the data. It is not technology. I could have given you enough jargons about the data sciences, but the important part is the end result. So I think as a Tech Mahindra, as a company, I think our 50% business comes out of telecom. We are very, very active in retail. We are very, very active in travel and ports. We play a significant role in digital banking, and we will continue to provide technology for business transformation.
That's great to hear. Now, I want to build on this, Mr. Ram. Mr. Gurnani spoke very heavily on data. Now, this part of the world, data is considered to be something very private. However, as facilitators of the telecom sector, you would be having a lot of data. How is this enabling artificial intelligence systems here in the Middle East and African region?
Great question. As they are saying, data is the new oil, and anything and everything will revolve on, as Mr. Gurnani put it, the business outcome that the data can provide, right? And a means of achieving meaningful outcomes would be adoption of technologies like AI, big data, machine learning, and so on and so forth. So one thing which, again, adding to what you had asked CP about, how are we going to, which are the technologies that we are going to focus on? Naturally, data and data related, and of course, adoption to operators, which is the telecom sector, etc., and some of the other sectors that CP alluded to. We are also going to establish what is called a Makers Lab. Now, Makers Lab is a chain of ecosystem of centers of excellences and digital labs, where the students that we spoke about are going to have access to the latest technologies, the latest use cases, and then adopt it to the country instances, because every country is very different. Now, coming back to your question on how is the Middle East adopting to it, the use cases which are relevant to the Middle East probably are a little different from what maybe a developed market is. And what we are going to focus a lot on is making the use cases more relevant to in-country, be it the oil and gas sector, maybe the government sector where the government to citizen interfaces is taking a very different shape, or be it the telecom sector where everything is now revolving around customer experiences. All the operators are talking about no longer what we call as the data and pipe which used to be the traditional revenue stream of operation, is going to they're transforming themselves into lifestyle operators. Every telecom operator is also now a fintech. They are also a retail provider. They are also into media, so on and so forth. And all this is going to produce a huge amount of data, which then needs to be analyzed. Part of the data can be monetized. Some of the data is going to be used to run their operations much better. And then, of course, what comes as an outcome would be their reaching out and them becoming number one, number two, number three in the industries that they operate in.
That's great to hear. Now, environmental and sustainability goals is sort of the buzzword of the 21st century here, and Oman has a very elaborate plan under the Oman Vision 2040 document. How is Tech Mahindra incorporating ESG into its values, and how are you bringing your clients and vendors to the next level with your tech?
For us, ESG is a purpose. So let me again take a step back. When my children were in school in India, we have this festival called Diwali, which really means, celebration of, in a way, welcoming winter. And winter in India is associated with sweets, with, lighting of the lamps, and a lot of crackers to celebrate. I know there are mythological stories, and my children were much smaller, and they used to actually try and negotiate with me higher pocket money for bursting those crackers. 1 year forward, they came back and said, "Dad, can we have that money, but we are going to use it for something else?" And I said, "What changed? Every year you used to negotiate." They said, "Oh no, in our school we were told what the impact of pollution is." I think same thing happened to me in Tech Mahindra when some of the youngsters came in and said, "CP, your plan for 2040 is not good enough. We need to make it in 2025. Why can't we be carbon neutral in 2025? Why can't we, be dependent only on alternate energy? Why can't we ban plastics? Why can't we do, a series of steps?" And, that is a time when it hits you hard that a child teaches you. That's my children taught me how to manage pollution. My youngsters, average age of 28, 29, taught me that every time for 1 year when I drive the car, I should be planting a few thousand trees. That every time I take a flight, I should be planting a few hundred trees. And I think that is where the Tech Mahindra changes happen. We are aggressive. We measure the ecosystem. We also take into account how much carbon we generate and how we can compensate for it. And all my initiatives, even in my some of my conferences, I actually give no other gift, no more t-shirts. It is all about we are planting trees on your behalf. So Tech Mahindra is very, very clear that it is not only about your own sustainability initiatives. It is about what we can do to improve the ecosystem in which we live in and measure what matters. So we measure every step in which we consume. I was sitting in the car of one of my colleagues in Oman today, and I told him, this is a leather car seat. Why couldn't we have a fabric car seat? And I did give him an example that there is a car company in California called Fisker Motors, which is basically going on sustainability. All I'm trying to tell you is what my youngsters taught me, I'm now practicing it. So I think we are very, very focused, and you would see more of us and more of our initiatives as we go along, because we believe we can actually consult for our clients and help them become more sustainable or fast track even the nation like Oman, not to wait till 2040, but to actually come forward a little earlier.
That's a very good insight that you have shared with us. And one of the things that I did notice when I was doing a bit of research on the website was Tech Mahindra's website is dark by default. And it mentions that you have saved this many kilowatt hours of energy. Are there any other initiatives that you have taken here in the Middle East and Africa region, Mr. Ram?
One, again, for Tech Mahindra, a very important part of our principle is giving back to the society, right? While every organization has a purpose, giving back to the shareholders, financial returns, but one critical thing, and that's the principle of the Mahindra tenets also, how do we give back to the society, right? And one part of it, CP did mention that all our offices are trying to become carbon neutral, our data centers are going carbon neutral, and where we are not able to, how are we compensating with that? The other part of the initiatives that we are taking out here is the underprivileged, and this is giving back to society, and one of the initiatives that we have taken is how do we train the underprivileged kids who do not have the luxury of technology and then bring them into the main fold. Another initiative which we have taken in this part of the world is we see ladies, right? They are educated, but then household comes and takes over, and they become involved in their day-to-day activities. And after some time, when the kids grow up, is the urge to work again. So we have started an initiative called Come Back to Work, which means that after your kids are settled, can we take them and train them and make them more worthy in terms of what they want to do. And small initiatives like these have been started in the region also.
Technology has always been a disruptor. But for a company like Tech Mahindra to have adopted technologies such as blockchain, and you're talking about cryptocurrency, how can you tell us your company as well as technology has moved on in the COVID era?
So, obvious answer to this is maturity of cybersecurity, that you are able to work from home, or in this 5G world eventually, you as a media industry would actually need no wires. Your cameras already, as you have noticed, are your earbuds are so much better that you are able to survive without wires. Think of 5G. And in India there was a news channel which used to run only on phones. They didn't even have the camera queue, they didn't have the OB vans, and so on and so forth. So to me, when you start looking at, there are three ways to look at innovation. What is technology enabling? Number one is it making this process run better or faster? Number two is this technology replacing an industry? Now, you have enough examples of that. The third part of it is, will it create new industries? I think COVID answered all these three. The technology quotient, working from home, being able to, seamlessly run your networks or media without having to drive hundreds of kilometers every day. Being able to do remote education, remote healthcare, or remote logistics, I think it just proved a point is that technology usage actually increased. So if I were to say, was it beneficial to every sector? The answer is, first one is commerce, because in countries that I go to visit, the mom and pop stores were dependent on somebody walking past their store and then deciding to buy a grocery item or a convenience. Now he doesn't wait for this. And to the extent is that people don't even think about it. I'll give you an example. I was in Indonesia yesterday. I just mentioned that I would like to buy something for my grandchild, and preferably a batik shirt. Do we have time? I asked my local guy. He said, "Oh, we won't have time to go to the mall. Maybe I'll get it." I said, "No, forget it. I'll take care of it." Because what was going through my mind was, okay, and now I know that I want to buy a batik shirt. And I genuinely came back, and at a local online store, I ordered it, and in the next 4 hours, I had it in my hotel. So I think that is the power of commerce, and it has all happened during COVID. So commerce has reached your home, education, healthcare, gaming, robotics. Everything has evolved. Drone technology. Visualize the. People look at it only as a delivery. People look at it as only as a camera, but start visualizing what a drone will do. So I think technology has really come of age. More than that, technology has started getting consumed more, and that I think is the blessing of COVID. And the fact is, if it was not for technology, we wouldn't have had a vaccination. All technology has done is fast track all your vaccination, because the compute AI created all permutation and combinations and gave all of us a vaccine and the booster doses.
You're very right, sir. And Tech Mahindra has also been one of the enablers of 5G in this region. Now, 5G has actually opened up a lot of avenues. Can you talk about it from a Middle East and Africa perspective? How much 5G has turned around technology and opened up new sectors here?
We are amazingly surprised by the speed of 5G fabric getting laid out in Middle East, right? The fastest 5G networks globally are actually now running in the Middle East. And all the Middle East countries are actually, the operators are competing amongst themselves at whose 5G would be faster than the others. The challenge and the opportunity would be, where would the use cases and the business use cases for 5G come out? The port operators, the transportation, the police, the airports, the use cases are the ones which are going to drive the maximum benefit of how 5G would be consumed with the interplay of technologies. How would the sensors from the towers communicate amongst themselves to take a decision on the street? We are going to have electronic cars, and we are going to have driverless cars. The amount of information play that happens between the vehicles has to be communicated over fabric that the 5G lays for. So we are very, very positive, and I'm so happy that you asked the question, because one of the major areas that we are going to ensure that the young talent gets trained on is the adoption of 5G, development of use cases for the country of Oman, and hopefully be able to take these assets which is developed in Oman to neighboring countries and hopefully to the world.
Thank you, Mr. Ram. Now, on an ending note, there are a lot of young entrepreneurs who are probably going to be watching this and asking the question, where is technology headed? And where should the youth look into as they grow up to become, engineers and entrepreneurs and startup owners?
Interesting question. I still belong to that era where it says technology is a ladder to reach a customer. A customer whose user preferences are changing by the day. That a TikTok proved to you that a byte consumption is what a consumer is looking at. So TikTok was a business case, it was not the technology case. Technology could have been given by hundreds of other people. So my request to all budding entrepreneurs is, visualize what the business problems are, and if you were to build your companies, start looking at the consumer behavior changing. They don't want to, a young entrepreneur today knows that the youngsters of today don't want to buy a car. They want to rent a car when they want it. They don't want to buy a house. They want to be able to rent a house. So my question is very simple. That means on software technology side, also they will rent it when they want it. Now you may decide that it is called cloud as a service, somebody may say it's a business process as a service, somebody may say it's a software as a service, But the reality is technology will enable business process or converting software to become a utility which you pay for it when you consume it.